Before Tsai Ing-wen's landslide victory secured her a second presidential term in Taiwan, she publicly admitted on numerous occasions that young people were the most critical factor in her campaign, and she spared no effort to woo the youth vote. Despite overwhelming youth support for her, there were still underlying concerns since young people have a reputation worldwide for being unreliable voters. Their no-show in the 2016 UK Brexit referendum is a painful reminder of this. Back in June 2016, Britain voted to leave the EU by 52% to 48%, despite pre-referendum sentiment that seemed to lean towards maintaining the status quo, and mainly that was because of support from young people. It has been argued that the shocking outcome was due to differential voting patterns among younger and older voters. The Leave vote was the result of 64% of eligible voters aged 18 to 24 casting their ballots, compared to 90% of those aged over 65. The conclusion drawn from Brexit was that many young people had not bothered to vote, and the situation of contrasting voting patterns among different demographics is certainly not unique to Britain. In Hong Kong, young people used to be seen as politically apathetic based on their historically low turnout at past elections. But that situation was turned on its head during the ongoing anti-government movement. Case in point, there was a surge in voting, especially by young people in the recent district council elections, which saw opposition candidates take nearly 90% of the seats. Societies the world over cannot ignore the anger of young people. We cannot afford to write off a whole generation of the young. We are unfortunately seeing a growing generational gap across the world and tend to view people in their 20s as less reliable, less competent, less rational, impatient, more demanding, and so on. Sadly, it is because many older people see millennials as good-for-nothings and accuse them of having a sense of entitlement. Such generalizations are in fact harmful to the survival of our societies, and that survival depends on younger generations. These critics have oversimplified the issues young people face and overlooked the transformative role youth play in civic society as well as world politics. More and more often, we are going to see young people taking to the streets and going to the ballot box as they become increasingly aware of the inadequacies of their leaders, political institutions, political parties, politicians, etc. Consequently, they feel duty-bound to defend and preserve what they believe in and vote for those who are aligned with their beliefs. Instead of trying to stop young people from taking over the steering wheel by branding them as reckless drivers and banning them from driving, we should teach them how to drive safely. Only with this approach can we be sure that they will not crash the vehicle and kill all of us on board. And yes, I mean this both literally and figuratively. We cannot just blame the education system or teachers and principals. We all have a role to play in helping our youngsters develop analytical skills and critical thinking so they can form their own values and moral principles. Hong Kong's future depends not only on its prosperity, but also peace and stability. And that all relies on everyone respecting the rule of law, which is the cornerstone of the city's success. Equally important to our long-term success and survival are our young people and their talents, but only if properly harnessed for good. Young people are changing the world for better or worse. We need to do our job to equip them sufficiently so that besides having the skills to build and develop society, they can make the right decisions for the sake of us all. Disengaging them from mainstream politics will only make them feel further disillusioned with government officials and politicians. We should try to restore their faith in society and harness their collective power. And why not help them blaze their own trails to make a difference in society and even the world? The future belongs to them, so help them by fostering an environment with sufficient resources and support, and give them a voice so they can become a generation of more engaged and responsible citizens. If taken seriously and given a choice, young people won't be so reckless as to crash the car we are all riding in. Trust them to care deeply enough about society and the world around them, to keep their eyes on the road, knowing their own futures are at stake.